So Naoya Inoue becomes a four-division world champion, this time at super bantamweight, crushing Steve Fulton in 8 rounds. Fulton got his snot box rocked, and he got relieved of his WBC and WBO belts. Let's talk about it. Well, this fight actually gave me flashbacks to a sparring session I had when I was an amateur at Fitzroy Lodge ABC in South London. And there was this African guy from one of those French speaking countries in there. He was only a cruiserweight, so he's smaller than me, can't have been any more than 5'10 at best. And I was hitting the bag and he was in the ring hitting pads. And you know what it's like, any of you who have boxed, when you're in the gym, you kind of scope out the people who are around your weight if you haven't seen them before because you might end up sparring them. So you watch them a little bit while they're training. And I looked at this guy on the pads and he was relatively fast, but he didn't look anything special to me. I was faster than him in terms of hand speed, bigger than him, longer arms, hit a lot harder, and so on. So when the guy asked me to spar, I was like, yeah, let's go. This should be easy work. So got in the ring, first round, I could not land a glove on this guy. Literally couldn't touch him. And it's not that his hands were Roy Jones fast or anything like that. As I said, on the bag, my hands were faster. On the pads, my hands were faster. But his brain was moving faster than mine. He was thinking much quicker than I was thinking. He could see things before I could see them. He was several steps ahead of me in terms of brain speed, like the CPU of the brain. His was like 4.5 gig, mine was like 2.5 gig or something like that. So it's like he knew what I was gonna do before I did. I could not land a glove on this guy, and that was the first time that I experienced something like that, where I literally just couldn't touch someone. And he was lighting me up like a Christmas tree. He wasn't hurting me, the guy really couldn't punch hard, but as I say, his brain was just working so fast that I couldn't touch him. And after the session, I did so bad that Mick Carney, who was the head coach, he's dead now, the head coach at the time, he came over and said to me, if you spar like that again, you'll get kicked off the team. Mick wasn't a guy to mince his words. But anyway, I had a flashback to that while I was watching Stephen Fulton against Inoue, because Fulton, same way, was just several steps behind Inoue in terms of brain speed. The hand speed between them, yeah, there was a little bit of a gap. Inoue was faster in hand speed and foot speed. Fulton's very wide stance maybe didn't help him that much, particularly early on. Inoue, with his slightly more narrow stance, was able to shift across the canvas quicker. But as I say, more than anything, the impression I got is that Inoue's brain was just moving way faster than Fulton's brain, and Fulton couldn't keep up. He couldn't relax into the fight like he normally does. And so that made him feel tense. To me, he looked like a guy who knew he was on the clock. He looked surprised. That's the word I was looking for. He was surprised by how quick Inoue was. Now, Inoue, throughout the fight, and he ended up winning in the 8th round based on this particular move, he was jabbing to the body and then coming upstairs with a right hand to the head. Sometimes he would jab to the body and then come upstairs with a left hook, but it was usually a right hand to the head. And that's a relatively unusual combination. Fighters do throw it, of course, but typically when a guy's going to throw a jab, if he's following up with anything, it's going to be a right hand to the head. Sometimes it will be a left hook to the head. But with Inoue, he kept jabbing to the body, and then coming with a right hand upstairs. Again, it brings the opponent's attention away from the head. Maybe they think they can counter you over the top of the jab. Maybe they are going to block because they're expecting a body punch or whatever after the left jab to the body, maybe expecting a right hand to the body or a left hook to the body, and that leaves them open upstairs. So Inoue was doing that throughout the fight. That's the combination he scored the first knockdown of the fight with in the 8th round. Fulton did have moments of success. I want to say in the 7th round, he managed to catch Inoue with a few punches, and Inoue got really angry. He came charging out after Steve Fulton when he got caught with those shots, wanting revenge. And, if Inoue was in there against a more dangerous puncher, that can sometimes backfire. If you go charging in, you get the red mist and all that kind of thing. But Inoue probably knew what he was in with. A very good fighter in Stephen Fulton, but not a massive puncher. Inoue applied pressure in that round, and in the 8th round, he closed the show. left jab to the body, right hand over the top. Fulton went down, and yeah, he got back up, but Inoue charged in, finished him off. And as I say, 4 division world champion. And again, just to go back to the sparring session where I got lit up like a Christmas tree back in the days by the cruiserweight, I tried to adjust in that sparring session, and I did start having more success as I went along. I managed to start pinning him on the ropes, and I was getting a few body shots in and stuff like that, but nothing clean. And how I did it was by abandoning my long range boxing. Because normally, if I'm fighting a shorter guy, a guy who's significantly shorter than me, I'm going to try to keep him on the end of a jab and force him to close down the distance to land his punches. But this guy was so fast, like his brain moved so fast that even when I kept him at the end of the jab at jabbing range, he would just twitch, do like a feint, and then he would come in with a lead left hook. And this lead left hook would just hit me bang on the chin every time. I literally could not anticipate what this guy was doing. Yeah, so I just started shelling up, putting the hands up and walking forward and trying to apply pressure on the guy to make him throw more punches than he wanted to throw, to hopefully wear him out after a few rounds, tire him out, and maybe I could start landing finally. And it was going that way a little bit. I can't remember how long we sparred for, how many rounds it was. But anyway, I never got to really put it on him in the end by wearing him out over the course of a longer sparring session. But that's what I was trying to do. And I think Fulton maybe tried to do that as well with Inoue, but Inoue just hit too hard to walk him down and apply pressure and all that kind of thing. Every time Stephen Fulton landed a shot, he tried to get out of there as quickly as possible because he didn't want the retaliation. So he got out of dodge every time he managed to land a shot against Inoue. Whereas when I was sparring the cruiserweight, his punches weren't hurting me, so I could get in there and apply more pressure. But yeah, Inoue, 4-weight world champion, excellent stuff. Now, as far as the pound for pound situation, is he number one and all this kind of thing, those of you who have been subscribed to me for several years will know that I'm not really a big pound for pound guy. I've never been one for pound lists and all that kind of stuff. I stay away from that. I let you guys do all that. And the reason for it is pound for pound lists, especially. I mean, any top 10 ranking is subjective to some extent, but with pound for pound, it's even more subjective. There are so many variables. For example, you've got a guy like Inoue, 122 pounds, moving up from 118 pounds to 122. So there's not really that much of a difference, couple pounds. Obviously, these are small guys, but if a light heavyweight champion moves up to cruiserweight and wins a world title there, he's moving up 25 pounds, right? That's like, if you're a 200-pound man, that's an eighth of your body weight. Is Inoue moving up the equivalent of an eighth of his body weight? What's the eighth of his body weight if it's 122 pounds? That's like what? 15 pounds roughly? He's not moving up that much. Do you know what I mean? So do you give someone like Inoue as much credit as a guy who moved from light heavyweight to cruiserweight and won world titles in those divisions? You see what I'm saying? I mean, even Alexander Usyk at heavyweight, he's fighting guys who were 20, 30 pounds heavier than him. You see what I'm saying? Does Usyk get extra credit because he's fighting people so much bigger than him than, would be the equivalent for somebody like Inoue? Again, I'm not saying that Inoue shouldn't be number one pound for pound. I'm just explaining why I don't get into pound for pound lists. Yeah, because there are all these different variables. And at the same time, it's like, is each division as deep with talent as the next? And obviously the answer is no. So you have to factor that in as well. Just because somebody's undisputed, it doesn't mean necessarily that they deserve as much credit as the next guy who's undisputed in a different weight division, because they might have had to beat better fighters. But then again, how do you measure who's a better fighter when you're comparing people from different divisions? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, some people do it in kind of a fantasy matchup way where they're thinking, okay, if you shrunk everybody down to the same size, all the heavyweights, let's say you shrunk all the heavyweights and all the higher weights down to the size of welterweights, in terms of their height and weight, shrunk them all down to welterweights, and you moved all the smaller guys up and you just made everybody in boxing a welterweight, right? Shrunk them down proportionally. You then have to figure out how tall everyone would be relative to each other. You see what I'm saying? Like, a Mike Tyson heavyweight, he's 5'10", how tall would he be at welterweight? Would he be like 5'6", 5'7"? You know? And I don't know. It's complicated when you start getting into all that pound for pound stuff and whatever. So anyway, I'll leave you guys to that. All I can say is Inoue is a fantastic fighter, great puncher, very skilled, fast hands, fast feet, fast reflexes, fast mind. And poor Stephen Fulton just couldn't keep up, got taken out. Let me know what you guys thought about the fight and the performance of both men in the comments section below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.